So I left at 5 a.m, and on the walk to my car, because I don't have a parking spot, my suit pants had slipped off the nice satin hanger. I had my suit jacket, but I was going to change when I got closer, so I'd have to sit in my suit all day. And they said, I guess, slipped off. So I got to Queens and with no pants.
Welcome to The Defense Never Rests with Morgan and Akins, your monthly dose of uncommon sense about all things legal and some that are not.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Defense Never Rests. I'm your host, Megan Henry, and I'm joined again by my partner, Nate Bolander. Hi, Nate.
Good morning, Megan. How are you?
I'm great. And I'm really excited about our podcast today because we are changing the format a little bit. I approached you about doing this a few weeks ago, that we just ask each other random questions. We don't know what the questions are going to be. Some may be legal, some may be not. I know mine are not mostly legal. And I just thought it'd be fun that we could get to know each other a little bit more, and our audience can get to know us. And maybe this is a format we're gonna, continue with future guests. So You're my guinea pig. Okay. Welcome.
Listen, I'm so flattered. As I was saying before we started, I thought I was in a good position being the first person you asked to do this, but now I realize I'm just the throwaway litmus test to see if it works. So,
or just a regular coming on that we get to every few weeks we just get to talk to Nate and learn more about Nate.
It would never get old. I'll tell you that much. There's always something to discover.
So I'm gonna start. And I'm going to start with this because, we all know, and I think anyone listening to the podcast knows that Nate is from NEPA. And for those not familiar with the region, it's northeastern Pennsylvania.
I don't know how you're not familiar, but okay.
Well, not everyone is from this area.
I know.
But my question, or my first question to you is, what was your upbringing like?
Wow, that's broad. And let's just do a caveat here. We didn't know what we're being asked. We did not prep this. So this is just the first time I'm hearing that question. My upbringing.
Can sum it up, or, I'm curious.
My upbringing, it was happy. It was very country. I grew up my mom kind of lived in a quasi suburb. My dad grew up on a farm, or raised me on a farm. We had, I think, 50 acres. It included a barn, a pig barn, a full garage. He turned an old furniture store that was dilapidated on the property into a full-length basketball court for me and my friends. So when I think about my childhood, I think about space and playing with friends and lots of time with my parents. And I'm an only child, and so you have to make your own fun.
Was there a wall that you played with? Like you threw a ball at it, so you'd always have someone to play catch with?
Yeah, we did have some stuff attached to tethers,
Oh yeah.
So I played with soccer players. So I would kick the ball, I would go around the tether, and then I would come back and I would redo that. My childhood, I just think about it fondly, and I think about lots of space and lots of running around and lots of playing sports, and lots of making your own fun, if that makes sense. When because I lived 45 minutes away from all my friends, so there was times when I just you couldn't come visit. Oh, and one more thing, and the people at the office know this too. We didn't have cable for many of those years, so that's why I'm such a Star Wars fan, because we had 6 VHS tapes, and they were all the 3 of the 6, so 50% of our entire library was Star Wars.
And two things. Let's be fair. At that time, there wasn't a lot on cable. It's not like now.
That's true. Yeah.
The options weren't endless. I think we had a cable, but there wasn't much on.
Mm-hmm.
But I like your point about making your own fun, because I do think that's something that's missing a little bit today. I notice it with my kids and their friends, and a lot of times kids just get bored so easily if you don't give them something to entertain them. And so I think it's almost a lost talent that needs to be refound, because I think it spurs creativity, it spurs independence, and it makes you less dependent on nowadays on electronics or scheduled activities.
Yeah, and kids are so quick nowadays to go to the iPad, right, or go to the TV or anything. And I do think it makes, first of all, it's better to have friends. It's my childhood sounds like I was locked in the basement and had to come up with I had a stick and a ball of lint, and I had to come up with some kind of activity. But I think you're right. It's creativity, and your kids are super creative. But I think that that is lost on the fact when you have moving screens in front of you all the time. You could just quickly go to that and see whatever you want. You could scroll through whatever you want, see whatever you want, and it just you lose the ability to be autonomously creative on your own, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And another funny caveat about well, what little I knew about you at first, I
Mm,
knew that you lived on a farm, but I thought you actually like worked on a farm.
mm.
Like I had these visions in my head that you were up because you always said you got up early. So I thought you had to get up early to like feed the animals and like
Yeah.
like
And by
build
the
a
way, that,
fence.
for the audience, that went on for several months. You thought that. I mean, we worked together for several months before you realized that that was not the case. But yeah, no, it was, I think it was called a farm and it had a name, but it was not a working farm. It was just, I think my
Yeah.
dad wanted lots of space. And then I don't know where the getting up early came from, but when I was a young kid, my dad just, a Saturday morning would just, it's 5 o'clock, it's just the end of sleep time.
Yeah.
And then when darkness came, you just went to sleep.
Well, you didn't have
Like,
cable.
Well, that's true. Yeah. What else are you going to do? I mean, yeah.
And he still lives there now though, right?
He lives about 35 minutes from there. He doesn't
Okay.
live we don't live on the farm anymore.
Okay.
But we live, we're in the woods now kind of. So,
Oh,
and that's what we're going back to soon. So get it back in the woods. That's where I like to be. So,
yeah. Well, that's great.
yeah. So okay. First question is under our belt. It was broader than I thought,
That's all right.
but we'll continue here. All right. For my first question, Megan,
Mhm.
you went to Georgetown undergrad as a math major, correct?
Correct.
How did you end up as an attorney?
Oh, well, that is a very good question. So I started as a biochemistry major, and that was too difficult in the sense that no matter how hard you tried, there was that one kid who got like a 98 and everyone else got 32s. And it was very depressing. So I decided to change courses and I was still pre-med, but I decided to major in psychology and math. And part of math was by chance. I called it, I majored in Dr. Chang because he was my favorite math professor. And I took as many math classes as I could with him. And it was just something that came very naturally to me. But I had never intended to go to law school. It was never, I thought I was going to medical school. That was my intention. But when I think it was my junior year, I had kind of had a little change of heart and I was like, I don't know if medical school's for me, but I didn't know what else to do. So I decided to go into a PhD program at George Washington University. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
yeah.
Oh my God.
So I did a PhD program in pharmacology and neuroscience for not very long. I was there and September 11th happened. I stayed, and that's a whole story of itself. Stayed there for about 9 months and I was miserable because part of that is you're in labs, part of the whole program is you're in labs, working in labs. And I had this very fantastic idea of what working in a lab would be. And it was certainly not anything that I imagined. Most people didn't speak English. Everyone wore headphones. It wasn't very social, which is not really my nature. And I just didn't have this love for this topic that I thought I had going in. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to cut my losses and I'm going to leave. And I left the program with the option of being able to come back because those things are all on grants and things. So they're very upset when you leave because they actually pay for you to be there. And I ended up getting a job as a healthcare consultant. I don't know how. It was random. I think they just took a chance on me and it was the most fun. And I traveled a ton to Arizona and Nevada when you're 22. That was awesome just to travel.
I was gonna say that's a time of your life where you want to do that, especially with a job. You feel pretty productive.
Yeah, and we worked a ton. But I had 3 other people who worked with me who just graduated college, and we our office was above a bar, so we would work till 10 and then go down for a late night happy hour, and we just had a blast. But at the time, I still had no idea what I was supposed to do with this degree or these degrees. So my mentor there was a lawyer and I had never even thought about being a lawyer until she was my mentor. And then her name is Lena. And from talking to her, I was like, wait, like this could actually be something I could do. And I also knew I had to find something to do because I wasn't going to get anywhere at just being without any advanced degree. So it was either get like a master's in health or public health or go to law school. And that seemed to be the most versatile option. And having Lena as my mentor, it seemed like it was eye-opening. So I just said, okay, well, after I think it was like 2 or 3 years there, I decided just to start, studying for the LSATs, and that was going to be my next move. And it was, I think a smart choice. I had my counterparts there ended up getting masters in public health, and they're doing great as well. But I think for me, this is probably it was a good path.
Right. And how many, when you got to law school, how many people were from the math or science fields? Not many, probably.
Like none.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, we had a class once where we went around and said, what everyone's background is. And it was like 30% political science, more history, a lot of the humanities. And then there were a couple kids who were like pre-med who switched over, and a couple kids who were chemistry and things and engineering, and they wanted to be patent attorneys, basically how that went.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you said that you started doing your PhD and you were kind of alone and stuff. I don't know if I've ever shared this, but my dad did the exact same thing. He was a chemistry major in undergrad, and he got in about a couple months doing that. And he said, I hate being alone. In fact, I hate being alone so much. I want to be around other people all the time. And so that's why he switched to psychology, and he's a psychologist now. But he learned the same way you did, I guess, that being alone in a lab is not what you want to do for your life.
No, and I just didn't even have the passion that these other scientists had for the research. Like some of it was cool. Like, oh yeah, like I sliced some rat brains today and I dyed them with this, but it was not that cool. Like it sounded cool, but the process was so long and, repetitive. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't have that. I just didn't have the same passion they did to be excited about this tiny little achievement. Was a huge achievement where I was like, I just want to solve the whole problem. And that just was never, it was just not happening. There were some people who had major luck, and maybe there's one person in my lab who discovered a gene. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's pretty cool. No, that wasn't happening for me.
Right. Do you use science and math in your practice now?
No.
You use it to calculate liens.
But that's a different kind of math. That's like accounting. And the math that you learn is more logical. So it actually it really helped me with the LSATs, because those logic games that everyone hates so much, they were a breeze, because it was just, to me, it was a giant math problem and it was fun. And in law school too, I originally had thought I was going to go that patent attorney route. And what I learned early on was, while I could qualify to take the patent exam because I had the necessary coursework, my science background wasn't strong enough to be a patent attorney, because I wasn't a mechanical or electrical or engineer or something like that, or I didn't have a strong enough degree for that, but I could qualify for it. So then I realized it was not a very good employable situation, because if they're not going to choose, if they're hiring a patent attorney, they're not going to choose the one with you could sit for the exam, but you don't have that really strong mechanical engineering background, right, or, biomedical engineering background, whatever it may be. I was up against so many people who had that. And it just wasn't going to work. So
right. Okay.
I had to change course.
Okay. That was my first question. Lots of subparts to that.
That was a good question.
Hey.
What is your favorite thing about your job?
God, my questions are so much more narrow than yours. But
I have some narrow ones later too, but they're fluffy.
Maybe we'll do a rapid fire round. God. My favorite thing about my job, really, and it's going to sound canned or whatever, my colleagues, I think you would attest to this too. We have a really, really unique group of people, and we're all very close, and we all kind of help each other out. We've had a lot of pandemic related hardships this year. Some of us got COVID, family members had COVID and had some medical issues. And I think we all just came together and really helped each other out. I right here, if you can see that pink piece of paper, that's a poster you all made me when I got engaged. When we got to our honeymoon, we had wine and cheese waiting for us from everyone. When my grandfather passed away, the firm sent flowers to the church. I just needed a plumber, and I contacted a couple people about that. I really feel like that's unique. I don't think a lot of places have that. So I think internally, we're all very close. We all contribute to each other's lives in a positive way. I always joke that, Carrie, our HR manager, is my work mom, right? I always ask her questions about life when we're here. But I think in actual practice stuff, I really find it rewarding to defend, especially for some reason, product manufacturers who really put their heart and soul into starting a company, testing safety, making sure the products work and they have good utility and they're safe for the people, and they really care when there's an injury that's involved with their product, whether they're at fault legally or not. And I think when you defend someone, and I have I'm not going to show you the letter, but I have a letter here from a product manufacturer that started his own company and built it up into this major company. When you defend someone's dream and vision and livelihood, that brings me a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, not the company itself, but I remember you getting that personal note and how thankful that individual was to how you represented them. And I mean, I've gotten a few of those over the years too. And I think when you get something like that, it makes you feel like, wow, what I'm doing matters. And it's not, I'm not just pushing paper across my desk or responding to emails. Like it makes an impact on your clients and their business. And,
Right.
I think that reminds us that, it's more than just, a job, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think the stereotype, unfortunately, because we do defense work, and the stereotype is unfortunately that when you're on the plaintiff side, you're representing the little guy, right? You're the little gal. You're representing the person who's injured, and their life will never be the same. And it's a very emotional thing. And if you're on the other side, if you're on the defense side, you're representing this monolithic, multinational corporation where everyone is a bigwig fat cat and they got money coming out of their pockets. And, it's just, that's not the case. I mean, it just isn't. We represent big companies. We represent tiny companies. And people really care. I mean, people care about their design, their products, their people under them, their employees. It really makes a difference, I think, more so than I think people just looking at a case would think.
I agree. And I mean, I talk about this a lot too, like the impact litigation can have on a company, large or small, is huge and disruptive and difficult. And, I think regardless of the size of the company, they do appreciate, our help and guidance through that whole process, because it's not a normal process for them.
Right.
And,
their goal is to make the best product they can, sell it, and of course make money. I'm not shouldn't hide that, but I mean that's their goal and that's their livelihood. Litigation is a side thing for them, and it's our jobs as their attorney to steward them through that process, and it's really involved in how long these cases can go for and how many venues they can be in and how many people can be added to the case and go away from the case. It's it's this long process, and not that they don't have time for it. It's important, but that's not their job, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah. No, it's not.
So anyway, okay. So was that an appropriate answer?
Great answer.
God, these are tough, man. These are tough. I thought I was gonna be like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food?
I have some like that.
We'll do rapid fire again. Okay, ready? I got 2 long ones and 2 short ones, so I'll go a long one next. Ready?
All right, go ahead.
This is similar to what you just said. What's your biggest career legal highlight to this point? Legal career highlight, not career legal highlight.
That is a very difficult question.
See?
I don't know if I can define one thing. I think what I feel most proud about is how far I've come from being this green attorney, coming into litigation, not even intending to go into litigation. I mean, I went into litigation because frankly, at the time that was the only job available, and being really scared. Like I did a summer internship at the DA's office. And again, like I took that internship because I had no other option. And I was terrified of speaking in front of people or questioning people. So the fact that I'm in litigation, if you were to talk to me like 15 years ago, you have no, like, what are you doing here? So from coming in, being like, litigation was not my intention, and now feeling very comfortable with the process and, speaking in front of people, doing this podcast, standing up in court, doing depositions. I used to be so nervous, like I'm going to throw up in the bathroom, nervous, going to discovery court, in Philadelphia, which is, a cattle call, to thinking now like no big deal. And, so I think when I think back at what my biggest accomplishment, I think it would be that, just overcoming those like deep inside fears of what people are thinking of me or judging what I'm saying, or, me overthinking all that and realizing that doesn't really matter. And if you do it the work ahead of time and you know what you're talking about and you do the research and again, experience, that it's not as scary of a process.
Yeah, and that's the number one fear in the world, right? Is public speaking.
Yeah.
So, and especially what always scared me is depositions. I mean, discovery court, I knew it was going to be over in 10 minutes when I first started doing it. I was like, I'm going to be out of here. I may lose. I'll do my best and be out of here. Depositions, especially if you're the lead person and you're taking plaintiff step, it could be a 7 hour. I mean, it could be multi-day, and it's just you. I mean, you people just watching you and like taking notes, and I was always out of my mind. And over time that goes away. But yeah, you're right. Preparedness is what changes that, the equation.
And I will say, like, over the years, I've gotten more comfortable with the sense that, like, I used to go into a deposition with the most detailed outline.
Mm-hmm.
And I still go in with an outline always, but it's maybe not as detailed. And what I learned over the years too is, and someone told me this early on, but I didn't understand it as much then. Go in with whatever outline you have, but make sure you're listening to the answers and don't just stick to your outline, because that is going to turn where you're going to go. And you can always come back to the outline to make sure you stay on track. Mm-hmm. And I think as a young attorney, that was very hard to do, to feel comfortable that, okay, I'm intuitive enough to hear what they're saying and know what a follow-up question should be. And what they're saying is very important, so I should listen rather than worry about the next question exactly. I'm going to ask.
Yep. There's lots of times when I first started where I would just check the boxes off on. Mm-hmm. I had to, 25-page outline. I asked this. I got an answer. Here's my answer. And I go back when I started summarizing these, and I'd be like, wait a minute, the answer the plaintiff gave was awful, and I should have followed up. But I just was interested in like making sure the question was asked. And I think that just happens over time. But yeah, I feel your pain. That's absolutely right. Is it so I'm going to press you on this.
Yeah.
So that's that's an overall, like, the length of your career highlight. What about a moment? And you're obviously not going to share case names or party names, but what do you have a motion you won, a case you got someone dismissed from, things like that? Do you really, like, you look back and like, that was great?
I do. There's one that comes to mind. I probably talked about it recently too. A few years ago, I defended this nonprofit organization that I'm trying to think of how to say it without giving too much away of who they are, but I would say they managed a public park. And at that park, a kid had come and drowned in a water area on the park. It was like a river that ran through it, and it had just rained. So as a rite of passage, that a lot of kids from the area would jump off this bridge and, into the water. And at this particular time, it didn't turn out, obviously, very, very well, very, very sad. And so they sued my client amongst some other people. And through the, discovery, we learned, and not much discovery, frankly. It was really just having a few conversations with my client, is that they had nothing to do with controlling this area. I mean, their job was to beautify the park, make sure it looks nice, that people want to visit it. They weren't involved in any structures or anything like that. And so I had them do an affidavit and, submitted that to counsel. And after some pressing, counsel agreed to dismiss them, which obviously they were thrilled with, and I was thrilled with, just because, a lot of times through litigation, you can do those types of things and your client isn't liable, and they still get dragged through. And then, they get upset and everyone's upset. It's costing so much money. It keeps going on. So I was very proud of that result. And afterwards, they had sent me like a handwritten note thanking me for the work that they did, which made me even happier that I was able to get that result early enough for them, And while they felt, again, for the loss that this family had, not every loss means that you're liable, your client's liable. So that's one that sticks out for me. And I still have, I keep the note. Well, I don't have an office in that office anymore, but I always keep the note up.
No, that's a great one. That's awesome. I think when you work with nonprofits, or when we do our pro bono work, I think that's, it's not more important or less important. It's just different. It's more satisfying because you can see results in real time, right? You're looking right at the person and you see how much it means to them.
Yeah. And they were there to help the community. Mm-hmm. And, so yeah, it was, made me feel so happy that I was able to get this result for them and that they could put this behind them too.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that was a good question.
Yeah, this is great. Every answer I give you say it's a good answer. Every question I give you say it's a good. This is great. I feel like I'm very accomplished right now in this podcast. Okay.
All right. What was or has been your most embarrassing court experience, whether it be a deposition or courtroom experience, or professional experience?
While I'm thinking of mine, I'll share. You know my best friend Dave, because and that's a whole other story. But you served on arbitration panel with him. But when he first started practicing, he walked to the back of a courtroom at the CJC Criminal Justice Center in Philly. He was doing a criminal defense case, and he had never been in open court in that building before. And he walked into the door, and with a whole gallery and the whole up at the bar and the court. I mean, there's probably 40 people in the room. He walked in, and from the back of the room, in the middle of another cases hearing, goes, "I'm Dave DiOrlando. I'm here for this case." And the judge was like, "Congratulations, sit down." And I just that's like the quintessential, like, you think you're more important than you are. We all thought that probably would start practicing, right? Like, I'm now an attorney and whatever. But I just find that is the most hilarious story, that everyone just turned around and his case was being called in like an hour and a half, and he just announced himself to the whole court. I can think of recently, I was in a deposition, feverishly taking notes. I was sitting in for someone else, and we were not the person doing the deposition, but I was feverishly taking notes, and I'm taking notes and I'm cross-referencing with an exhibit, and I was doing all these different things. And then our client's name was mentioned, and I said, "Objection to form." And I almost surprised myself. And it was a lot of people at the deposition, and they looked at me and the questioning attorney is like, "On what grounds?" And I said, my client's name was mentioned. And they said, "That's not I said, "Yeah, withdrawn." And it was, I mean, everyone kind of chuckled to themselves, and they knew we had been in a deposition for like 8 hours at that point. It was like 4 p.m. And I just, out of the corner of my ear, heard our client's name. I just felt, I have to stop this somehow. I have to object. And that was just so stupid. I mean, it was such a knee-jerk reaction that I was, and that's the most recent one I could, I'm sure there's tons more that I'm not thinking of.
It's hard to think of them. Like, I was trying to think myself, and I mean, obviously I do everything perfect, so nothing's ever embarrassing.
Yeah, if you're perfect, you wouldn't have an answer to that question, right? You're still waiting for your big flub, your big screw up.
But I remember when I was doing my first solo trial, and I had to cross-examine a witness and introduce a document. Mm-hmm. And I was up there, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. Yeah. Like, but I knew how. I got it, like, but I like froze on the spot. Yeah. And the judge was so kind, and kind of like, he could tell that I was like a deer in headlights, and I just didn't know how to do this, and he kind of walked me through it, and I was mortified. But who saw it? And no one. Opposing counsel, the judge, and two witnesses. But I remember like just feeling like, oh, what am I doing? But,
yeah. Well, I mean, and the funny thing is, people watching this and they say like, oh, well, should we trust these people with our cases? Or like, the best attorneys on the planet have made a million mistakes like that, especially early on in their career. And as long as 99% of them are harmless, right? They're just like, everyone kind of chuckled at you, maybe everyone chuckled at me, and it goes away. I can't think of any major mistakes, thank God, that I've made or that anyone here has made. But I just think there's so many things you don't know the procedure for. I can remember being in a different state practicing, and I brought my SIR reply. So you get, there's the motion, opposition, reply, and SIR reply. And I had the smoking gun, and you have to bring all your filings hand to hand deliver. And I handed it over to the clerk, and they said, there are no SIR replies in the state. Okay.
Live and learn.
We won that anyway, thank God. But it's just things like that like I walked away from that being incredibly embarrassed. And of course I cut that from the bill. I never did it, and that's what you do. But no one that was there remembers that, right? I'm the only one that remembers that. But it's just this moment that's like, God, you're doing all these other things, looking at all these other statutes and case law and stuff, and you just don't even know, because it's a new venue for you, that you don't get a SIR reply. And again, it was 3 pages, probably it wasn't a big deal, but you just feel like such a dunce. You're just like, I should have known that.
Although that wasn't the moment I thought you would say.
So you have more mistakes than I've
No,
made.
I thought you were going to mention the time that you had to leave very early to go appear in court, and you arrived there and you had lost your suit pants.
Oh my God. Well, that's not a legal mistake. That's a dumb.
Well,
that's
I just said most embarrassing moment.
Oh, yeah. I had a hearing in Queens at 9:30, and you know me, I get there at 7:30. I had to make sure I'm there, get all my stuff out, go over everything. I hate being late. So I left at 5 a.m. and on the walk to my car, because I don't have a parking spot, my suit pants had slipped off the nice satin hanger. I had my suit jacket, but I was going to change when I got closer, so I had to sit in my suit all day. And they said, I guess, slipped off. So I got to Queens and with no pants. I had jeans and a flannel shirt and I had like a tie and a shirt and everything. And so I had to go to my friend Keith's house, who lives on Long Island. He had to call he's like 5'5". That wasn't going to work. He had to call his friend Jamal, who is my height. And I got a different color blue pants to match my blue top. And it was like a quasi thrown together navy suit. And then I had the pants dry cleaned and sent them back to Jamal and with a thank you card. Yep, that was. No, I didn't count that because that's not a legal thing. That's a dumb Nate thing. 5 a.m. walking through Philly with a suit on a hanger. But.
And at least you got there early. See, that's proof to pudding that's why you're always early.
Yep. My dad taught me that. He gets to airports. They say 2 hours for domestic, 3 hours for. He does 5 and 6. Yep. He just sits there and he'll read a whole book and he'll give the book away in the terminal. He's like, I'm done with that. Thank you. But there's been times where you have a problem, like 1 out of every 100 times. You lose your pants, and then what? Then you have to procure new pants, and then you're thankful for your time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, great. So thank you, Megan. I was going to answer it the way I wanted to, but you prevented. Thank you so much.
Oh well, everyone needs to know about the lost pants.
Story, yeah, that's great. Anyway, actually, it's funny. I just donated that suit jacket because it's a suit jacket without pants. I just donated it to Goodwill this morning because we're moving, so I just dropped it off. Yeah,
you don't need that jacket anymore.
No, and I haven't worn it since because there's no pants.
It's bad luck.
Yeah, right. That's right. All right, ready? Next big one. What is the most challenging aspect of working full time from home during the pandemic with 2 young daughters who are also home from school? That's a loaded question.
Oh, but it's also an easy one for me to answer because I experience it every day.
Right.
It is. Well, I guess there's a few things, but one, finding the time to have extended thoughts, because I tend to get interrupted quite frequently. And I've accustomed to it a lot more now. Back in March, I was pulling my hair out, and last March was a little different because school was kind of up to me as well. Now it's, not up to me. They know what to do on screens and stuff, but I still get interrupted quite a bit. So, and with what we do, that can be difficult because you can be focused on something and then you get interrupted. So then you have to refocus. And I have had to learn not to let that frazzle me as much, and being able to reclaim my focus. I've also had to instill a lot of rules that, I have an office with doors, and if the doors are closed like they are now, they're not allowed to come in here. They're not allowed to bother me. That doesn't work all day. I can't have the doors to my office closed all day because inevitably there's something that they need. But I will say this, a lot of people think this is such an overly challenging experience. And while it's very challenging, I also am very thankful for it because, it is kind of nice that I get to see them so much during the day and kind of see how school happens. I didn't know really how school happens. And even though it happens a little differently now than I probably normally does, I'm thankful I get this little chunk of extra time that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. After I had both my daughters, I went back to work in, 14 weeks. And so I didn't take this extended maternity leave, and they were back in daycare, full time. So I kind of feel like I got a little to reclaim the prize a little bit and get a little bit, time that would have otherwise been lost. So I have a more, I think, positive outlook on things. That being said, I do find my days are longer and there's less definition to the end of the day. Whereas before, I would work from home, but they wouldn't be home. So I would have this whole day all to myself, silence, and it was glorious. Now, obviously I don't have that. And before my day would end, at a certain time, now I kind of keep extending it a little bit longer because I have those interruptions and you still need to deliver. And you need to make up for it somewhere. There's just not magical hours. So, that that's a challenge because then you feel this little bit of exhaustion because you're not, you don't have a cutoff, you know, it kind of just bleeds on.
Yep.
But, you know, I'll take it for now. I mean, everything's eventually will go back to normal.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, I kind of like that they get to see a little bit of more of what I do.
Mhm.
And, you know, they'll come in and, you know, well, you've seen them like on our firm meetings and, you know, they'll come in and look at like, I'll be looking at like whatever CCTV footage or something, and they want to know what it is, what I'm looking for. And it's kind of nice to explain it to them a little bit. And so they
Yeah.
understand a little more what we do and what, you know, understand my job a little bit, I think. And, you know, they see mom in action too. Sometimes like they'll see me on calls with the court and, you know, they know not to come in, but they'll stand outside my glass door and,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
watch me. So I would say there's great challenges, but I also think, you know, there's some blessings in there as well.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. I mean, I think interestingly enough, you know how Facebook says, you know, your memories from X amount of years ago, it gives you that in the morning. My memory from 1 year ago today, so it's March 18th, was a picture of my wife and the dogs and I walking through the woods in Nipa, and I titled the picture "The Silver Lining." And at that point,
Mhm.
we didn't. I mean, all we knew at that point was COVID's a thing, and we don't know how long it's gonna be around. Remember, we thought it was gonna be like 2 weeks.
No, you thought it was gonna be 2 weeks.
Well, I was hoping it'd be 2 weeks. I mean, I guess, you know, like, and one of our colleagues had a trip to Italy in
Oh,
April, I
yeah.
think, and we were like, oh, you'll be fine. Like
Yeah.
mid March, we're like, you'll be fine. You'll be going to Italy. Little did we know that was going to be unraveled, and so
Yeah.
was everything else. But I think, you know, in the last year, we've spent time with my wife's family in Michigan, in Charlotte, in Florida, in New Orleans. Time with my family. We decided to purchase land. We just like reassessed our life in the city. I mean, I think, you know, luckily no one that in my immediate family has gotten the virus, but I think for a lot of people it's been devastating. We're so lucky to have our jobs and to have time with our families. I mean, you'll never have this time again, probably, with your kids watching you work, you watching them at school. You'll never have this again, right?
Yeah.
So
And
I think you got to look at it that way.
I agree. Like, and I that's what I remind myself when I get very frustrated too. Some days are more frustrating than others. And I will be thankful though. They are going to camp this summer. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, well, but the best thing about just people who don't know, the best thing about your girls when you were on these Zoom calls is that they always love to be on camera, and they always come up to your left shoulder. Right, I'm pointing at it, but not
Yeah,
that
the
matters.
shoulder.
Yeah, they always come up there, and then we always say hi to them. Everyone waves, and they run away. Like
Yep.
they want to be around, but no talking, which is probably good because, you know, they won't talk to strangers or whatever. But it's just so
Yeah.
funny that like they're always involved, but they don't want to go too far. You know?
Yeah, I never have to worry about my kids talking to strangers
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
or like close relatives, really.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like-
Do you think that coming out of the pandemic, people are going to homeschool more?
I do.
You think? Yeah.
I do. I mean, and I think we're going to see more of this hybrid model too. I think, like, I think we're going to see a lot more of like, it's just that easy to do a virtual week or snow days, unfortunately, I think are never going to happen really,
Yep.
you know, which stinks, but again, it stinks at the end of the year to make up a bunch of days too. So,
Yep.
but I think, yeah, I think people with a certain means or a capability to do it, I think homeschooling might be a better option for some kids. I mean,
Yep.
I know like my second grader, she's fine being home. Like she has the option to go back to school now and she doesn't want to because she likes it. She doesn't want to wear a mask all day and I don't blame her. I
Right.
wouldn't.
Mhm.
And, you know, she gets bored, but she sees friends too outside of school. So she's not missing that social part.
Yeah.
And school's also not as fun or social as it was before right now. So I think she's content with it. I think
Yeah.
my kindergartner, I think I'm just chalking it up to a lost year because it's just,
Yeah.
it's just, and it's okay because it's kindergarten and I don't know. I think she'll be fine in the long run as long as she
Right.
can like count and read by the end of the year. I think we're in good shape.
Right. And she that's not a question that she
Yeah,
will with you
she's fine.
on top of it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was my question. Okay, we're getting through them.
All right. This is probably my last more serious question.
Oh God.
What is the best piece of advice you've received?
Oh man.
It could be legal if that's easier.
No, I mean, well, there's lots of advice that's been imparted about like the legal profession, but geez, I mean, I know this is just like imagine being asked this on like a talk show, Conan O'Brien staring at you, and you have to answer this question.
I'm not as tall as him.
I'm not. I'm close though. He's 6'5".
Yeah, I'm not as tall as him.
No, you're not. No, you could not look more different than Conan O'Brien. Red-haired, tall, Irish, whatever. I will be boring again, but I think the golden rule was always a big thing in my household growing up. When I was mean to someone, my dad would always say, how would you like it if that happened to you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a kid that really resonated with me, because if I was like, I took something from another kid, or because as we've established, I wasn't well socialized, just playing with myself all the time. So when I was let out of my cage and was able to be around other children, it didn't go well. But I think it was just basically like, put yourself in that person's shoes and picture what it would be like if that's the case. I think another one that my dad I think it's a Ronald Reagan quote, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm misquoting. Maybe it's Margaret Thatcher. But if not me, then who? And if not now, then when?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to get away from procrastination. I think is, when you're like a young kid or a teenager or whatever, you're like, I'll do it later. And if you answer those two questions, honestly, you're going to have to do what you have to do right away, right? Because
right.
If not me, then, if I looked at homework, if not me, then who? Well, dad's not doing it. Mom's not doing it. None of my friends are going to do it. Michael Jordan's not going to come do it. And then if not now, then when? And it's 8:00 and my bedtime is 9:00. Self-imposed. I think if you answer those two questions, you're almost always going to say me and now, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way around it. And I think that really gives you a good work ethic and a good basis to not pony off responsibilities on other people and not procrastinate to wait for someone else to do it or wait for it to go away. So my dad would always say, if not now, if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
I think that explains a lot of who you are.
Why is that?
Well, no, you're very much like that. I mean, like this is silly, but even like with your email box maintenance, like you're on top of making sure you don't. I could use some of that skill, making sure I don't have built up email in my email box. But I think that's something that your dad instilled in you, and you really carry forward. And I think it's a positive quality.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I have. For those that don't know, I can't go to bed with any emails in either my personal or work inbox, which is a real challenge if you get emails at 8:00 at night, 9:00 at night. I have routinely gotten up out of bed, opened my computer, waited for it to turn on, answer the email, close the computer. And you can't do anything if you're sleeping, right? If you get an email at 2 a.m, you can't do anything about it. But I find it brings me a lot of mental peace to not have anything. It's either filed, it's over here to be answered, it's here, I got to work on it. And I think I look at their inbox, like 4,000 unread emails. I'm just like, man, how do you get up and have cereal in the morning? Like,
well, I will say my work inbox is controlled. I'm looking at it right now.
What's controlled to you?
I have like,
if it's 3 digits or more.
Oh, it's probably unread. I only have 37, and that's probably mostly like junk stuff. But if you were to look at like my Gmail account, I have 6,242 unread emails. But again, that's junk.
Yeah, but why? But here's the little tip for the viewers. One thing I always do. If I get an email from someone, a lot of people just you'll never want to talk to again. Like for instance, I ordered my little cousin, he's 19. I ordered him a baseball jersey for his birthday. And it was from MLB.com. I'm not a baseball fan. So after I ordered it, they sent me one promotion being like, thanks, welcome to MLB.com. Here's $10 off your next order. Instead of just being like, oh, trash, and dealing with MLB.com for the next 2 decades, I unsubscribed. And people don't do that. I unsubscribe like 3 times a day.
No, I don't. That's
because then you're done with them. Yeah.
I just make a rule and just have it put it someplace else so I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, no. So anyway, to wrap things up, growing up, it was like, Dad, can I have help with my homework? Dad, can you help me change the oil in the car? What do you want to do about this? Yep, right now. Let's go right. I mean, it was very, no procrastination, no putting it off, no calling someone. You just did it immediately. And I think that's served me well. It makes me manic, but serves me well. So there you go. That's a good question. That's a good question.
Thank you.
I have only rapid fire ones now.
Okay. Well, I have some good rapid fire ones too. So that's,
Okay. What do you do when Georgetown plays Villanova?
I always pick Georgetown.
Why?
I never root for Villanova.
Why?
In fact, we have a going joke. I do love Jay Wright. He's very cute. And I think
okay. not his skill set, just his looks.
Well, he's a very good coach. Look at what he's done.
That's good.
But no, I always believe that if you root for your college, not any like advanced school that you go to.
What happens if you're like?
Or if you grew up and since you were a little kid and, you always watched, I don't know, in my state, it would have been UConn. Then sure, I agree with that. Like if you grow up older and you're always rooting for UConn, but I always rooted for Georgetown when I was little as well, just to make my dad mad because he was rooting for UConn. And I just wanted to like have that competitive, like root for the team that's playing against UConn.
Right. And you're all over the Big East, right? Because you grew up in UConn country,
Yeah.
You went to Georgetown, and then you went to Villanova for law school. So you're just like in one conference.
It's very confusing, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's always Georgetown.
Okay. Well, what happens if you're like me and your undergrad was D3, you'll never be on national television, but then your secondary degree is Penn State, which is always on television?
That's different. Like that like I had that a lot in law school as well. A lot of my friends went to University of Scranton undergrad. Well, so they took on Villanova as their team. I think that's acceptable. But if you have two teams in the same conference,
right,
you have to go to your undergrad.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just my opinion.
That's a fair rule. I agree. But I also grew up in Pennsylvania as a Penn State fan, so I think that counts too. Right?
Yeah, I think so too. I was never a UConn fan, and now it's funny. My niece is going to UConn in the fall.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. We'll be against each other. Yeah, they're both in the Big East.
In terms of basketball, men's and women's, you can't pick a better program. They're like always. Well, the women's team is always awesome.
Oh yeah.
On and off. But anyway, okay, great, good.
All right.
Good answer.
What did you have for dinner last night?
Oh, we are getting to the bottom of the barrel with what's in our fridge because we're moving. So
yeah, this is good then. Did you have like mustard and carrots?
Well, my wife and I don't care what I eat ever. I mean, honestly, like when she goes out of town, it's just raid the freezer. My dad gives us frozen mussels in a pack.
Oh, that's nice.
They're not great, but because we have them, I just run through them, and I'm embarrassed to say how many mussels I'll eat in a sitting. That's all I'll have. Like it's dinner, just mussels. But for dinner last night, my wife announced that she was going to make sausage, sauerkraut, which I was like on board as a German. I'm like on board, and then a fried egg on top. And I was like, I don't know why you've done that last step, right? That doesn't make sense to me. So she made, and she agreed, but we're just trying to get rid of eggs. Right?
Yeah.
So I said I will agree to eat eggs this morning and tomorrow morning if we don't have the egg last night. So we just had a smattering of sausage and tons of sauerkraut because we're literally pulling things out of our freezer and our fridge to get rid of it. So my wife is a tremendous cook, and most of the time we have gourmet meals. And this week has just been like, get rid of stuff. So.
I do think the egg would have been good if it was like a nice runny egg.
Yeah, but it's like, man, but at that point I had one beer, and I don't want to have beer with a runny egg. That's like not a good thing.
Not okay.
Because we're trying to get rid of beer too.
Oh well, thank
goodness
you're helping the team out with that one.
Right, yeah, well, I do what I can. So, but yeah, it's anyway, that's what I had for dinner.
Well, and for anyone who doesn't know, Nate's moving tomorrow. So, and out of Philadelphia. So, I mean, this might be the night that you should go out to dinner for your like last Philadelphia special dinner. I think so.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of that lately, more than I'd like to admit. Like the last time we're going to be, so we've done a lot of last times in the last month, and it's been nice, but it's also been a lot of money to go to.
No, it is really. So
yeah, exactly. Well, right. Well, we're only moving 2 hours away. We'll be back.
True, but
my last quick question, and I can pick up more if you need them. What's your estimated date that you're going to make the move to be Blackie's general counsel?
I don't think we need that. I
You're
think
not at that level?
No, I think we're fine with me being on the advisory consultant role, that they come to me when they need me. But I don't think we're scaling that large. We've been around since 1928 and we only have one location. And I don't see it. Maybe there might be a second outfit that might happen, but I don't
You
think
heard it here first. You heard it here first, huh? Breaking news.
Yeah, you heard it here first. That I have not heard firsthand from the person who'd be doing it, but I've heard secondhand. So I don't know. I don't know if they'll need. I don't need them. Think they need me on payroll. I think my free advice is what they like to take.
Much better. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they? And for those that don't know, Megan's family owns is it a hot dog stand or is it an actual store? Like it's a brick and mortar?
No, it's a brick and mortar.
Okay.
It is called a stand, but I mean, it has like, I'm trying to think, I don't have any pictures behind me. It has like a counter in front, and then 2 towers onto the side with garage doors in front of the counter, and the towers have seating. And the counter has seating, although we haven't been using that seating in COVID because it's kind of like a bar, like they're, swivel chairs, but it's been in the family since 1928. So, my grandmother opened it as with her sister and her sister's husband as a gas station. And they started serving people who came to get gas hot dogs. And they had this secret hot pepper relish recipe. And they started selling more hot dogs than gas. So they just, operated the restaurant. I don't know when the gas station went away. And I think we're on our 3rd building now too. I think the original one they knocked down, built the 2nd one, and that one burnt down. Because the hot dogs are boiled in oil. So, it does prone well for fires. But I think this current building's been up since, I want to say 52 or 58. I'm not sure the exact years, but it's been in our family the whole time. So my brother and my mom are really the ones who run it day by day. And, I sometimes get consulted on advice on certain things. And
are they face a lot of litigation up there or what?
No, I mean, as a business, they, you do see, what I see a lot in my practice is, people getting, maybe falling on the property and suing, but it hasn't happened a whole lot, thankfully. It's because we run a very, tight ship over there. But I mean, it does, like, when that does happen, it's, again, I see how it can impact them because they're not as familiar with the litigation process. Right. So, and it does disrupt business a bit, and especially when you have, employees who don't know the process. So, I do, help offer my help. In such
but
such
you're
situations.
Not ready to make the move to full GC role.
No, I don't think so. I think I'll be here for a while.
Okay, good. We don't want to lose you. Good.
Yep. All right, I have one last question. I know you're on my last one, but
sure.
I like this one.
Oh.
What is one movie that you could watch over and over and over and never get sick of it?
It's different than your favorite movie, right? Because my favorite movie is Braveheart, which is like 3.5 hours long. I could not watch that over and over again because there's too many parts. I'll tell you what, man, these new Marvel movies.
Yeah.
I don't know what if TBS just like has some extended deal with them, but if you turn on TBS at any point, any day, they're playing a Marvel movie, and I just find them so well written. There's action, then there's funny, then there's emotional development, then there's action, funny, emotional development. I just feel like they move quickly. You can always pick them up. You can always pick up new things because now there's this expanded universe with WandaVision and the Loki show and all this other stuff. And I just think I could watch those as many times. And my wife loves them, which is even more helpful because
also,
you can't.
It's a little bit cheating because aren't there like 30 of them?
Okay.
Let me pick this library that has a million movies to watch.
Everything with Matt Damon in it forever. I would say I really like Thor Ragnarok. I really like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And Endgame and Infinity War. Those are the two, and the two last ones. I can watch over and over and over again. I can also watch Star Wars over and over again. Yeah. Them, really. I mean, but I love movies that if there's no new stuff you can find, I find it tough to watch them 100 times. If there's always new Easter eggs, callbacks, little tidbits. I'm a big, after I watch something, I go on YouTube and I find like the 162 things you missed, and then when you watch it again and again and again and again, like I know the lines that were improvised. I know that they include this word because they were going to include it in a series 10 years later. and they thought ahead. I love that stuff. The fact that George Lucas, the first Star Wars was Episode 4, I think is genius, and he always wanted to go back and make 1, 2, 3, and it took him 20 years, and so I love that.
It just shows like an extra layer of thinking ahead that you don't realize is going on. So your response is much different than mine, though, because I think the one movie, and it's very true that I can and always do watch over and over. If it's on TV, I will watch it, is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Every time without
I can't believe you said that. It was on last night. Did you watch it?
Yes.
Okay. It was on Paramount Channel or something. I didn't even know we had that. But I'd never saw it before last night.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man, it is. I mean, it's between that and probably Step Brothers, but Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I love that movie.
Why do you love it? What's the?
It never gets old to me. I always think it's funny. And I laugh at the same jokes every single time. And I'm not one of those people who like to watch movies over and over again, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'll tell you, we watched it last night, and I said to my wife, I love Russell Brand. I think his brand of comedy is so funny. And she's like, I couldn't hate him more. I think he's so annoying. I don't like him in this movie. And so what is your thought? I mean, are you a Russell Brand fan or not?
I think he's very funny, but I mean, my favorite character is Paul Rudd's character in the movie.
Was it him Kooky or what's his name? Kumi?
Yeah, I think it's Kumi. I mean, I love Jason Segel too, but I don't know. Paul Rudd just... He cracks me up.
Yeah, and my wife has a crush on him. He's like 53.
Oh, really?
He's insanely attractive for 53.
He is.
I mean, he looks like he's 32.
Oh, well.
I don't know. Well, there you go. So, you can combine those two things. Ant-Man has Paul Rudd plus it's a Marvel movie. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll watch it this weekend.
Exactly. Have you seen all of them or not? Do you not fan?
No, I try. So our friends are really into all the Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll give these a shot. And I went on the internet and I tried to find like what is the best order to watch them in. Mm. And I don't even know which one I started with. I think it was Captain America, actually. I kid you not, I made 7 minutes in, and I just was like, nope.
Why though?
It just didn't. It just didn't do it for me.
I'm not a comic book fan. I didn't grow up with any of this stuff. I just think that they did a great job with these, and they're so easy to watch. It's just like bright lights, lots of funny action,
Well, that's what I wanted to watch, because I figured this would be just a great easy thing, like easy movie to watch that sounds like it has interesting story, like the Jason Bourne movies. I can always watch those, but it didn't pull me in like those.
Right. And Mission Impossibles, I feel like that too.
Oh yeah.
That Mission Impossible Fallout's been on I feel like TBS and TNT and USA, whatever, like they get like a movie for 3 months. And it's just constantly on. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen Mission Impossible Fallout 3 times in the last month. I don't know why. Like it's just I don't have any connection to it. It just keeps being on. And cable stinks.
Well, it's good that you never see. It's a good thing you never had it.
We sit down at 7 o'clock. Right. We sit down at 7 o'clock and it's The Office, sports, which is always vetoed, or a movie. And the movies are always, Captain Marvel, Thor Ragnarok, whatever. And it's just we just keep watching, a piece every day during dinner. And I don't know. I feel like I would answer this question differently if TNT and TBS didn't shove it down my throat.
Yeah, you've been influenced.
I have.
Yeah.
And I'm not Netflix. I don't need to go to Netflix all the time to watch stuff. I just watch TV and old school.
Yeah, there's not much left there. I've seen it all.
That's right. When we've got, the pandemic is in full effect when we reach the end of Netflix, not the end of cable, the end of Netflix with like 2,000 options.
I've gone to Hulu. So I'm rewatching things that I've already seen. I forget, what am I rewatching? I don't know. I started rewatching, I think, Mad Men. Why not? So Nate, thanks so much for coming on and appeasing me with my questions, and I hope we can do it again soon. I think this was a lot of fun, and I got to know a lot more about you, even though I surprised you a little bit.
You did. The depth of your questions was amazingly surprising. I do hope you keep doing these. I think they're a great idea, and I can't wait. There's some people in the office, I'm sure we're thinking of the same people, where if you do this with them, I can't wait to watch their answers.
Great.
It'll be, you can't miss. Who's that?
That's Blair.
Oh, see, they love being on camera, but not a lot of talking. But no, I hope you do this with people. I think it's going to be a great series. I think it's a great idea.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks for being the first one on.
Thank you.